Kate Tremills. Kate has got a crush on discipline. Never heard that term before. Very interesting perspective on discipline. Kate has many talents, but we talk about she has a food company. It's very with a twist. She had an issue where she travels a lot, big passion of traveling. She loves food. She has some dietary restrictions, so she's always concerned about what was available on the plane, where she was going. So she started making meals like risotto and tandoori chicken, real meals that she could take with her. She has a partner. Now she gets them freeze dried. So you just have to add boiling water to it. Flourish Kitchen is a wonderful concept. Has great products with the ingredients, great ingredients. I'm a big ingredient reader with olive oil, with basil, with it's absolutely wonderful. The ingredients, none of those seed oils, none of those canola, with great ingredients that actually go through the ingredients of her risotto, of her basil risotto, chicken basil risotto with her. But just a great conversation with Kate. She had a problem and now she's brought it to market. And what she had to go through to get there. I love talking to entrepreneurs about this that have a solution, especially when it involves some of my passions like travel, food. Great talking to Kate. And there's 3 things that ring close to her in everything she does: creativity, caring, and another C you're going to learn about. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Okay. Kate Tremills, thank you so much for for spending time with me today. I really appreciate it. Why is food so, not just for nutrition's sake, just so important for us?
Oh, I love that question. Well, to me, food is such a foundational piece to feeling good in our
Mm.
lives. It's clearly something where we can gather with other people, and it's always been so central to the human happiness equation. But I've definitely discovered throughout my life that if I am not taking good care of the food that I'm eating, then everything else starts degrading in my life.
Mm.
So it's become no big surprise as we talk about my company, but it's just become a key piece to me feeling good, to my mood being good,
Hmm.
to life just working well.
You describe how I believe you said from Nova Scotia, and how
Yeah.
all the parties end up happening kind of centralized around the kitchen.
It's true. Yeah. So true. Yeah. So I'm on the opposite coast now. I'm on Vancouver
Yeah, you're in
Island, but in
Vancouver.
Nova Scotia, every single party, I mean, that's the joke. I think there's even a film called Kitchen Party because
Mm.
everybody ends up in the kitchen. I think it's where folks feel most comfortable, where they relax and just, you know, let their guard down and they connect easily. And everybody gathers over food. Like it's such a core piece of joy. Food and music in the Maritimes. Food and music are what draw people together. And
Mm.
it creates such an atmosphere of welcome and warmth and connection, and people just relax. So yeah.
They certainly do. My father's from Italy, so he would send me
Ah,
over there as a kid, and just the whole ritual, of sitting down and don't you dare have I'm sure now no phones allowed. Back when I was a kid, it was just let's just eat, let's just talk, let's argue a little bit too. Let's
yeah.
everybody's still kissing and high-fiving though afterwards. We're not dividing up like, here in the States anyway,
Yeah.
but it was just so central. And I love Kate, the ingredients that you use are so oh my goodness, they're so excellent. I want to go over some of your favorites. I know pesto chicken risotto, I think, is your favorite.
It really is. Yeah, and it's probably because for years I couldn't eat risotto. So
Right.
like what it's like if you can't. It was something that anytime I saw people eating risotto, I was like, "Oh," because I can't eat dairy myself. So
Right.
it was just heartbreaking that I couldn't eat it. So the fact that we were able to create this recipe with our chef and then offer it to other folks and make it easy to travel with was just it sounds so funny, but it was a dream come true for me because it's like means I can have risotto anytime I want.
Mm.
But yes,
Yeah,
the ingredients, yeah.
incredible. Yeah, I happened to make risotto this week, and I forget just how good,
Yeah.
the arborio rice there, how wonderful it is. But I mean, the ingredients. I mean, you're talking about. I'm looking at it now, right? Chicken bone
Yeah.
broth, right? Stock, chicken flavor, sea salt, rice, spinach, pesto, spinach, olive oil. My goodness, everybody uses the cheap stuff now, the canola or the sunflower. You're using olive oil. It's wonderful, Kate.
Thank you.
Basil, yeast. You're using seeds, hemp, scallion, salt, black pepper, fennel, olive oil. It's so wonderful. I'm an ingredients reader, right? So everything I
Ah,
pick up, so I go right to the ingredients. I mean, I would can't wait to eat something like this.
yeah, thank you. And I wish I could show I'll have to take a picture and start showing that. The You should see how much basil goes into our
Oh,
risotto. It's
really?
awesome. Oh yeah, it's the real deal, that's for sure. But yes, the ingredients really matter to us, especially because I feel like, for folks where there are certain things you just can't have, like so, all these things that you have to take out of a recipe. Well, we really wanted the quality of the ingredients to be, um, you know, excellent. And primo is the word that came to mind, like in the sense
Mm,
of, if this is a meal that people are really looking forward to and traveling with, I mean, we've made them so that people can, carry them in your bag, take them in your car, bring them on an airplane. Basically, you want it to be really good. And actually, we end up using them on the days when we just don't want to cook, and you
mm.
know this is what we'll eat. But yes, the quality of the ingredients really matter to us. And where we live now too, we're surrounded by people who grow. Like, we're in a rural area where there's tons of farms and tons of small, like, artisanal farms too, where people will specialize. And so it's the quality of food really matters to us. It's a core value for sure, but also you taste it. You taste it when you eat the meals.
So you get the pouch. You add. I'm looking at you. You pour into container about it says 220 milliliters of boiling water. You cover for 5 minutes and enjoy. I mean, it just
Yeah.
sounds too good to be true.
This is the magic of freeze-dried meals. So,
Right.
yeah, it's actually, and I've eaten enough of them over and over. I travel with them, so I can attest to how well it works. You should see the faces of flight attendants light up when we're on a plane with these meals that we just kind of pour into our little travel container and then add the hot water, and they're just like, "What are you doing?" So yeah, it's wild how beautifully it works. I've There's a little bit of a difference because for years I've been an outdoors enthusiast and a hiker, and there's a difference in dehydrated meals compared to freeze dried. So
Okay.
it just because so basically with our meals, not only do they rehydrate much faster, they also hold all the nutrition and all that flavor. So
Wow.
there's just it's quite a process to to actually freeze dry versus dehydrate. And I won't go into the technicalities, but basically, it really does make such a difference to the the actual meal once you rehydrate it and eat it. And it's shocking how fast it actually turns back into a meal when you add that
Hmm.
boiling hot water. So yeah, it's
And the
pretty.
packets don't need to be refrigerated.
No, they do not. No, they're because it's freeze dried and because we have oxygen absorbers, and they actually could they have quite a shelf life, so they can last for at least a year, longer actually. But
Wow.
we like to be really safe, and yeah, so we keep them in our cupboards, and then as long as you haven't broken that seal, then they last for a really long time, and I have taken them all over the world. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty magical.
Very cool. And so I
Yeah.
know in the States, like the military have these MREs, meals ready to
Oh
eat,
yeah. Yeah,
and
totally.
they're known not to be very good, but they provide nutrition for the troops. So this is
Yeah.
obviously an advanced version of this.
Yes, it really is. Yeah, and if you're like was saying, if you're somebody who kind of has been an outdoor enthusiast, you've probably had your share of dehydrated meals, which are like,
Mm.
sometimes they're good, sometimes not so
Hmm.
much. They don't have the same flavor and the same pop. I think that's the thing that blows people away is how flavorful these are for sure. So, yeah.
Tell me what your process is of making a new recipe.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we've had to actually really remind ourselves not to go crazy because we want to
Mm.
make so many things. But ultimately, we wanted some variety, so we've got like a little bit of kind of cultural variety in what we're offering. We also wanted it to be really like we usually start from the place of the fact that we want it to be very satisfying and a tiny little bit of comfort food. I know
Mm.
that kind of weighs in, and then the things that we can make that will still be really really flavorful without dairy or gluten. So a lot of our meals have rice, but we also make sure that they've got a really good portion of protein. So we our meals only have like we don't have any meals that are plant-based only. So we've had a few people kind of asking if we can do versions of them like that, but we always start from a place of we want it to be really satisfying, we want it to be really tasty, and we want it to have a decent amount of protein content for folks who, if you're traveling on planes these days, like it's really hard to do any trip that's less than 5 or 7 hours to get somewhere.
Mm.
So
Mm.
this is something that we really want folks to feel good and arrive at their destination with like just a good mental focus and the ability to do all the things that they want to do once they arrive. So yeah, we do that, and then we basically usually what we do is think about like what's the most flavorful meal that we could possibly create and kind of combine that with some of our favorites. So as you can see, we're big enthusiasts of like Thai curry, and we really
Yeah.
wanted to do the risottos. My co-founder is a huge chili fan, so we had to create a chili, and things, especially for folks who are low FODMAP. There's a lot of things that they can't have, and so we wanted to also come from the place of like, well, what are the meals that they really want to be able to have, but going into a restaurant, there's just no way that the restaurant's going to be able to make it for them. So
Hmm.
so that was another driver for us in terms of the meals that we've created up to this point. And then we've got we're starting to think about snacks and things like that people want to be able to carry with them easily. So yeah.
And why no dairy or gluten?
Well, those ones are probably most important to me, but we also wanted to expand to basically more folks who really, really care about the nutrition and their well-being, but are struggling with that and are
I say.
the main thing is too, like it's very easy for folks who eat gluten and dairy. It's pretty easy to get relatively healthy options when you're
Sure.
traveling or if you're on a road trip and that kind of thing. But if you have certain limitations, it just gets 10 times harder to
Hmm.
find a meal that you can eat. So we've talked to lots of
I
folks
see.
who just you end up like eating cashews or almonds and kind of getting
Mm.
through with granola bars. Or some of our customers have said, "Oh my God, yes, I have, a niece or a nephew going on a trip, and they've stashed like half their suitcases granola bars because they're
Hmm.
concerned that they won't be able to find the things that they want to be able to eat." So that was just part of our core audience, to really support folks who have like vibrant, busy lives, that you can still eat really well and feel really good.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
the freeze dried, there's no limitations as far as food is concerned.
No, you're right. The only one that we've found so far, which is why we don't have a breakfast option, is eggs. We've had a heck of a time
Ah.
trying to freeze dry eggs and actually have them rehydrate and taste good. So that's a little mystery that we have not cracked yet. But
Interesting.
yeah, but everything else has turned out really well. That's just been the one where we're like, "Oh my goodness, we are just going to have to figure out how this works." Um but yeah, so and we did consider doing like an oatmeal or overnight oats, except that's a pretty saturated market. There's a lot of options for folks
Mm.
with
Mm.
those. So we thought, well, you know, that's not super original. There's people have a lot of variety already in that space. So we've been staying out of the breakfast space, but otherwise it's really remarkable to see. And that'll be the fun part with snacks, because when you freeze dry things like fruit in particular, it's crazy how flavorful it becomes.
Huh.
So there's some folks doing that, and it's become really popular in as baking ingredients, or mixing it into, like, mixologists really like using freeze dried fruits
Ah.
or fruit powders and that kind of thing, or even like herb powders. So if you take
Hmm.
basil and freeze dry it, the flavor gets really, really intense. So folks who use just want to use a little bit, but want to use really quality ingredients in things like, baking or decorating or mixing drinks, it's freeze dried ingredients are becoming really, really popular.
Hmm.
So yeah.
And how about things that still have bones in them? It's fried chicken or T-bone steak or something like that. When you
Oh,
freeze dry it, you can't really, because since there's hard material in there, the bone.
yeah, that would, I mean, I know that you can, because if you look at, there's a huge market of like freeze dried pet food.
Mm.
So, and they include, I don't know how they process it. Maybe they just, you know, break everything down in advance and then put it into the freeze dryer. But if you look, the folks who are doing that, they keep everything. They keep all the parts and all the bones, and I mean, especially because for animals, they would naturally eat those anyway. So if they can, but yeah, no, apparently you can. We don't, but
Hmm.
but apparently you can. It's pretty wild. Yeah.
And how about like something with dough, with like pizza or even tacos, with something like that?
Yeah, we haven't tried that actually, but it's a good question. I mean, the tricky part is like rehydrating it and having it come back to something that people would recognize. So you can kind of
Right.
tell, like, most of the meals we've done have been sort of like a version of bowls. So almost like, Buddha bowls, or that we've thought about doing things like steering in that direction as well, because if you're trying to maintain a shape, that's really tricky, because it all
Uh,
kind of breaks down into something it's like this really delicate powder, really. So other than like the vegetables and things like that will hold their shape, but if you're trying to keep something intact, like a tortilla or a pizza crust, that would be pretty tricky for sure.
Hamburger,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, totally. The shape thing would be, yeah, so it's easier if you add that afterwards.
Tandoori chicken, turkey
Oh
sweet potato
yeah.
chili, tomato basil
Yeah.
chicken risotto, yellow curry with chicken. How did you arrive at this, Kate? Why do this?
Oh my. Well, it's really the bringing together of at least two of my passions, maybe even three, but travel for sure,
Mm.
and really, really, really good food. And
Hmm.
and then we started just talking to more and more folks, and it's amazing. Every single person we talk to has at least one friend or one family member who is really struggling with a specific diet. So whether that's low FODMAP, which is basically a diet that gets um, recommended to folks who have IBS or inflammation, so really stress related inflammation. Most doctors or nutritionists or naturopaths will recommend the low FODMAP diet because it basically just reduces inflammation so your body can heal. And and so I actually ended up, I think it was post COVID actually. I made it through COVID and then we got a puppy and my whole system just went
Ah,
sideways because the stress of like changing my lifestyle on top of like 2 or 3 years of stress that we already, made it through. Um, and for the first time in my life, I actually had IBS. And at that point, we were
wow.
already playing around with this as an idea to put out there in the world. We'd been testing out recipes and talking to a lot of folks. And then and I was about to get on a plane to New York. And I was like, how the heck am I going to survive in New York eating out if I can't eat anything, if I'm just like
Mm,
going to be stressed the whole time figuring out like, because I mean nobody wants to go to New York and be stressed about what you're eating.
right.
So yeah, we realized, especially like I said, the more that we talked to people, the more we knew it was a big it was basically the thing that would take the joy out of road trips or travel or zipping around everywhere with your kids, was because here you are with this these diet limitations and you end up kind of getting by during the day with, like I was saying, like dried nuts and granola bars, and that's not a great way to live. So my co-founder is like super excited about all the tech, so the freeze drying and the experimenting, and I was just really excited about providing a product that was going to just support a joyful, easy, freedom oriented lifestyle for folks who still want to get up to things in the world, whether it's,
Smart.
raising a family or traveling all over the world and doing speaking gigs. So, yeah.
I love traveling food too, but I didn't do this. So I mean, so what's the next step? So so you decide because you have some dietary limitations, you're afraid of,
Yeah.
what you might. So then you get the idea and then you said you actually have a chef that you work with.
Yes. Yeah. So we sought out specifically because my co-founder and I are not like, we are entrepreneurs. We're creatives at heart. He's he does work as like a chief marketing officer. I've done tons of work as a storyteller and a consultant, like a creative consultant. Um, but we had never before owned a food company, so we knew that when it came to, we knew the menu, so to speak, that we wanted to create. But we also knew our own limitations and that we really wanted to work with someone who understood how to bring the best combinations, the best ingredients, the best flavor to the meals that we wanted to create. And so, through a friend of ours, we met this wonderful chef who's actually, she's won Chopped, which was on the Food Network.
Yeah.
She's got a background in integrative nutrition as well. So she's done tons of cooking for different restaurants, but also like she develops menus for athletes and, folks who want to hire her as a private chef. So she had tons of experience and was just a joy to work with. And I was really excited to develop this with us. So
Hmm.
she was our chef consultant and we tested all the meals with her. We actually got to go to New York City and meet her in person and test out the meals as well. And just, so we definitely knew how to lean into our strengths when creating this company and how to trust the experts when it came to things
Mm.
like this. So it was just such a joy to work with her actually. So yeah.
So you got this great idea. You find the right resources to create this great product, but there's so much more to a business, right? Now you've got
Oh
to
yeah.
package, you've got to market, you've got to fulfillment, you've got to, be
Oh
able
yeah.
to, have people test it, get reviews. It's a big undertaking.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness. Yeah, that is the understatement of the
Yeah.
century. You really discover, so I'm sure you know this, like you really discover so quickly what what you're not only what you're good at, what you're familiar with, but boy oh boy do you discover what you don't know. And
Mm.
I think probably the primary thing that I've had to do is just get, this is going to sound hilarious, but get comfortable with being completely uncomfortable all the time. Or
Mm.
as I'm one of the very lucky winners of the Stacey's Rise grant. There's 5 in Canada and 10 in the United States. And the founder who created this program, she spoke to us and basically said, if you're not, if you're really, really uncomfortable or really resistant to failing all the time, you are in the wrong business. Like just leave being
Yeah.
an entrepreneur, go do something else, because that's how it works. Like you are just going to, fail and do and win and succeed and all the things, but you have to be comfortable with just the things you don't know, and getting back up and doing more things. So yes, so there's been a lot of discomfort. I will tell you
Mm.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
I heard you say that you've become an expert at grant writing.
Oh my gosh. I don't know about an expert, but I've definitely become way better at it than I used to be. That's for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, we've owned a lot of businesses. We've done a lot of things, my co-founder and I, and we just really wanted to, as much as possible, we wanted to either like basically bootstrap and leverage the funding that we could get from other organizations, the support that's out there. We just really wanted to be sure that we were putting everything we could into this without compromising like the well-being of our own financial health as well. So there's like lots of risk that we're putting into this for sure. But I will say the beauty of grants is that you really do feel so supported, and it's this wonderful injection of usually both money and support, like
Mm.
actual awareness and attention and publicity and all these good things that it's we're tremendously grateful. So yeah, as much as we can possibly get support that we don't have to pay back is really, well, you do pay back, but in just not financially. So we're very happy to do that for sure.
And
Yeah.
how about dealing with governments? I mean, the US has the
Oof.
FDA. Europe is much more stringent on these kinds of things. I don't know what it is there in Canada. What was that like?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we have to, if there's any area that we have to um, coach ourselves to be patient, it's tricky. You have to, and there's so many, again, speaking to the things that you just don't know, you don't know. Like
Yeah.
as we started designing our initial packaging, we were like, oh my gosh, we had, you just don't know these things, there's really specific guidelines, even right down to the size of the print that you put on your package. It's like, really?
Wow.
Like this is yeah. So there's a lot of regulations. We just basically have been taking them one step at a time. We're not selling into Europe at the moment or anything like
I
that, but
see.
you kind of have to just take it as quickly as you can, and lean on people who know. So
Mm.
we're in the process of actually redesigning our packaging right now. So we definitely hired a designer that's really familiar with, like right now, with the Canadian regulations, which tend to be a little more restrictive because we have 2 languages that we put on our packaging and things
Ah.
like that. But yeah, you just pretty much every single step of the way, you realize, okay, there's something else I have to learn here, or ideally find the person who does know and get guided through the process. Cause it's wild. Like, and I don't know, like oil and water. I think government and entrepreneurs, like these
In
are their oil and
innovation.
water
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
innovation. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you would think they'd help, but I've always wondered, like, as far as the ingredients, we just kinda list them off,
Yeah.
and they're listed in the order of which there's more of, right? The first is the most.
Yes.
Do you have to Does the government have to sit there and watch you make it? How do you prove what's in your ingredients to the government?
That's a great question. I know that we have to, like, in Canada specifically, like, we have to be approved by the province, and then you have to be approved by the country. But we're also, and then we also cook in an approved facility. So there's a
Ah.
lot of different layers of like how you make things. But I mean, I'm not sure that the FDA actually, like, or in Canada, our regulatory bodies, I'm not sure that they check on everybody. I
It's
presume
interesting.
it's kind of a certain amount of, like, I'm sure they do spot checks, but I can't imagine that they have the resources to actually
Right,
verify
test each
everybody's
one.
ingredients. Yeah, but and I do know that I believe in the States it's like up to there's up to a 20%, like they're comfortable with there being up to a 20% like variable to what you
I see.
claim. So that's probably how they cover it. But yeah, it's a great question. I'm sure that they do occasionally if somebody, speaks out about a particular brand, and then they would come and verify for sure. They inspect. I mean, we certainly had to go through different levels of inspection to be able to make the food that we do. And
Mm.
so yeah, so there's definitely, different levels of getting approved and inspected and qualified for sure to do
And
this.
looking at this packaging right here, you have to show the calories, you have to show the fat, what percentage, the carbohydrates, the protein, etc. You have to, and
Yeah.
they're all pretty uniform, I notice, with each package. So I'm sure the government has a template in which you have to work with. It just um yeah, so you say it's 380 calories. But another big thing is the portions that they do here in this. A lot of the packaging is just ridiculous. But you just have the whole pouch. The whole pouch is this
Yes.
amount, which seems very clean.
Yeah, we decided that because, I mean, if you we felt like it was a reasonable amount of food and calories for a
Mm,
specific meal. And we do have folks who sometimes like split it up. They might split it into two and
mm,
decide to use it just like to stretch a meal or that sort of thing, or to have like half of it on the plane and half of it when they arrive in their hotel.
mm.
But it's definitely designed as a single portion, a single meal, which 400 calories, I mean, it's not really that
Pretty
much,
good.
but at the same,
Very good.
yeah, it's pretty solid, but at the same time, a very healthy portion. And we know that right now, anyway, most of our customers are women, and so,
Mm,
a guy might want 600 calories, maybe, but
mm.
really, I think we know it's a really satisfying portion for sure. So we're really comfortable with that, and yeah, yeah, wanted it to be reasonable but not too much. So yeah,
Yeah, the government just gets in the way. But now you have a great QR code. You have a mailing list. You're engaging with your community, which is great. You're on Facebook and all the
yeah.
socials, which is just really just necessary these days.
It is, and it gives people a chance to chat with us and ask us
Mm,
questions, and I find that part really fun. Actually, my co-founder would rather just focus on making the meals, but as somebody who's like a big part of my background and my career is talking to people, and is actually having the conversation, and we definitely know that when people ask questions, it's because they're interested and they care. So that's actually really exciting to me because then we get to know what's going on with our customers, with our prospective customers, what they care about, what's next for them. That's really exciting to me. That's when you feel like you actually are part of something, and it's very alive. So that's been really lovely. We've definitely had people reach out via our website and ask us questions, and
mm.
yeah, it's been really fun.
So, do you cook? Do you like to cook yourself, Kate?
I do love to cook, actually. Yeah, I'm not sure. Sometimes it's a relief not to cook now that I have a
Mm,
food
mm,
company, but
mm, mm.
but actually, I do. I find it really relaxing,
Yeah.
especially if you spend most of your day at a laptop or, chatting with folks. Like, just there's something about making a meal that feels just grounding and relaxing. And I've discovered it's a wonderful way to express your love for your family and your friends. And honestly, I would rather go to a friend's house and cook a meal with them. Maybe this is the Nova Scotian in
Mm,
me,
mm.
than go out to a restaurant most of the time. Like, if you can, you know I mean, you'll get this, like, that's the joy. It's like it's one of my favorite things in Italy as well. Like, we've been in people's homes and just had the joy of getting to share in cooking a meal, and it's it's so connecting. Like it's just so there's just so much pleasure in it that's,
Mm,
and I think sometimes in the rushing around, especially in North America, all the rushing around, we lose that. Like we
we
forget
do.
that, there's, like you said, I love the word ritual. It's such a beautiful thing to bring people together and to remind us like that the simple things really matter. And they're the things that make the biggest difference in our lives.
Mm.
So, yeah.
See, the problem. I love to cook, right? So
Yeah.
I experiment constantly, and when it comes out good, everybody likes it, and they say, "What'd you do?" And I said, "I don't remember now. I don't remember how much of this
Yeah.
I put and what I put." So does that ever happen to you? If you make something, when you go to the chef, you say, "Well, I use some of this and some of that," and then they experiment. What happens there?
Oh, this is hilarious because I tend to be somebody who kind of has a rhythm and I have the things I like to use and I know how
Yeah,
much to use and stuff. My co-founder, he's like you. He's a total experimenter. And so
yeah,
it was so challenging for him where it was like, what do you mean we have to measure everything every time and
right,
it has to be
right,
the same and it
right,
has to be
right.
consistent? Like this is not how I work. So we had to kind of find that lovely balance, and that's the joy of working with the chef, where we got to experiment until you locked in what worked, and
Mm,
once you lock it in, it's gotta stay consistent because people want to know that they're getting what they paid for last time. So
that's right.
and what they
That's
fell in
the
love with. So yeah, so it's kind of this, we get to kind of have all that crazy creative, like spontaneous joy while
mm.
we're developing the recipes, which has been really delightful. And then yeah, once you lock it in, it's got to stay consistent. So it's a bit of both for sure.
Yeah, because even like, some of the old timers who didn't write down any menus, you ask them how much olive oil, and they're like, "Oh, this much."
Yeah,
They
yeah,
don't, they
yeah,
just, I put a potato in there. Well, a big one, small one, I put a potato in there. So
yeah.
it's just, it's very much like that. And, I work in the tech field, Kate, and I working on projects and I'm working on only, little bits and I'm delegating. I walk into that kitchen and it's clean. And then I start
Mm,
pulling ingredients out. I start cooking. I start mixing things up, see what I have. People are eating. I clean as I go. And then when it's all done, I clean everything up and I get to walk out of that kitchen the way I never have a project in life and in any of my professional work that I can see from beginning to end. And it's
mm.
just so satisfying just going in there, cooking, smelling it, experimenting. It might not always work, but hopefully a lot of times it does. And then it just, I think cleaning is part of it. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's because you're right. Like when you're part of these, and I've been part of those huge projects that go on for months or maybe
Mm.
years, or,
Mm.
and you're just a little piece of it. You're not the whole
Yeah.
project, or you're
Yeah.
not, but when you can actually see something from the very beginning to the very end,
Yeah, it's
like in
nice.
maybe what, an hour or so,
Right.
and then you get to eat it and you get to share it. And it's so true. It's really satisfying, and I think you put your finger on something that I think has really kept us enthusiastic about what we're doing here, which is we really, you get to, like, we get to be part of the the sourcing of the food, and then the
Mm.
creating of the meals, and then it gets packaged and it gets, we get to tell people about it, and then it gets sent out to our customers. And even on the days where we're like, oh my goodness, how are we possibly going to do all the things, where we really remember there is such satisfaction in getting to be like part of something that, where it started and how it's landing in the customer's hands. And that's a really special thing because
Yeah.
we don't often get that experience other than the little things. Or maybe it's like in my garden, I think, is one of the areas where I get to not as
Mm.
quickly as cooking, but it's kind of fun that in a couple of months you can see something go from seed to blossom. So yeah, it's really satisfying for
And it's
sure.
nice to know it's from somebody who had the problem and solved it themselves and now are helping others with it instead of I don't know, sometimes just a big corporation kind of loses that human element. I wonder how, like, has technology helped you at all with Flourish Kitchen?
It really has. Yeah, hugely actually because well there's the technology in the freeze drying, so that's
Mm.
super cool. And then we're really selling at the moment we're only selling direct to customers. So part of our background is we actually had a retail store in Vancouver, BC for 10 years. And so we know, bricks and mortar super well. We also know the challenges and the heartbreaks of bricks and mortar.
Yeah.
And we really, really wanted to make something that people could buy directly. So they buy it through our website. Right now, we may work with like the Amazons and the Costco's of the world, but right now
Mm.
it's direct. People order directly through us, and we just knew there's so much that we understand and love about e-commerce, like selling directly on the web.
Mm.
And so without technology, this would not exist. Like we'd have to
Right.
go around knocking on doors and talking to,
Mm.
the REIs and the mountain equipment co-ops of the world. And
Right.
and they're not even our target market. Like we're doing
Mm.
something that's more lifestyle than it is outdoors enthusiast. Um, so by being able to sell direct online, we can actually convey the experience and the values and the benefits and all the things directly to our people, and then they can reach out like real time and ask us questions, and 5 seconds later I can answer them. It's actually kind of mind-blowing how quick and in a way easy that is. Like
Mm.
it's quite remarkable, and I feel very blessed as an entrepreneur to be doing this at this time when we can talk directly to our consumers and ask them
Mm.
anything we want to know. And that's a pretty wild thing when usually you'd have to go through other stores, and they might not share anything with you about your customers.
Mm.
So yeah, technology's been instrumental in this business. I don't know that we would have done this business if we couldn't have sold
Good.
directly to our customers. Yeah.
How about artificial intelligence? Have you implemented AI at all?
Yes. So
Huh.
there's we have some pretty fun conversations in our house because my Kevin, my co-founder, is like a huge, huge enthusiast, and I can see both sides. I can see like what's going to be challenging and what's going to be what's really amazing. So it's made a huge difference for us is in. I mean, obviously, being entrepreneurs, you end up doing a lot of the tasks, and you don't have enough time or energy to do all the tasks. So I'm really grateful for AI to, help us craft our messaging, help us craft some strategy or just a plan. So if I am directing, our consultants that we've hired for design or for social media and things like that, if I need to kind of, brainstorm with like and create a creative brief, so to speak, I can use ChatGPT for that. And it just makes everything go faster, or at least
Mm.
I can test it out. And then I take it back and I refine it and I make sure that it's true to what we want it to be. But it definitely helps um, alleviate the amount, just the sheer amount of work that we have to do.
Mm.
So
Mm.
so yeah, it's been very helpful to have like that. We've mostly been using it as, I would say, like a brainstorming partner or something like a tool to basically help us do the first draft of something, and then we would go from there. So it helps with that sort of blank page syndrome where you're just like, how do I get started on this when, and also to learn ourselves because I've never created a creative brief for, food packaging. So it helps me to kind of know, oh, okay, here are the things that a designer is going to need, and provide those so that it's faster and easier. So yeah, 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 it's helpful.
Yeah, it's certainly helpful. Boy, the sky's the limit as to how many, industries, companies it's going to help AI, especially in those areas there. Creating that first
Yeah,
draft, like you said, that blank page syndrome, you know, um, it just helps. I use it constantly, and
yeah,
I can only imagine. Oh, the impact. It's gonna be wonderful. So, okay, I started my tech firm in the 90s, and I was working way too much and I wasn't eating well at all. Didn't have these great ingredients like you have in your in your food. And I found myself eventually at like 340 pounds. And
Wow.
the doctor said to me, if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. My daughter was just born. So I spent the next 7 months, lost about 130 pounds. And people always ask me how. They want a quick answer. How'd you do it? How'd you do it? It's a big issue, of course, being overweight and obesity, certainly here in the States. So my quick answer to that, Kate, is always discipline. That's how I lost it.
Mm,
Just discipline,
yeah.
focus and willpower and, control and routine. It's all under the discipline spectrum, I feel. I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life, Kate Tremills.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think especially if you're doing anything, well, if you're doing anything new, but also if you're doing anything creative,
Mm,
you need that discipline, you need the habits, I tend to think of it as that container. Like, you need structure, you do. And especially when you're very inspired and you have 10,000 ideas every single day, it's discipline that actually directs them and that actually puts them in a direction where you're going to build something.
hmm,
So without discipline, you're not going to get you're not going to climb that mountain, you're not going to finish that proposal, you're not going to finish. Like, I find discipline for me is key at starting something and finishing something, because the middle part
mm,
I can usually, once you get the momentum going, it's a bit easier. But yeah, discipline's been essential for me to finish anything.
hmm,
And whether it's writing a novel, which I've done, whether it's delivering things to somebody else, whether it's imagining a food company and being determined and disciplined enough to take on all the different hurdles that come along on that journey, I it's essential. It's I don't know how I would, complete things in a day, a week, or a month if I didn't have discipline, for sure. So, and especially, like, I'm sure like, when you're self-directed, discipline is your best friend, because nobody else is going to hold you accountable, like, until you do, which I've certainly got my own accountability buddies, and that's very helpful. You
mm,
still need the discipline to actually deliver. So yeah, no, I'm a big believer in habits and discipline, and caring enough about your own life to
hmm,
know that, like, to me, because discipline, the root of that is being a disciple. So if you're a disciple to what you're making, to what you want to be, to how you want to show up in the world, you're treating yourself and you're treating what you care about in a sacred way. And I know some people turn discipline into like a negative thing, but I think if you
hmm.
know that it's about you being, you really caring and being the disciple to what you want to do in the world, then it's 100% worth it, for sure.
What a wonderful take. Do you feel you've had that attitude even since those days in Nova Scotia?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I think, for a long time, I think it kicked in when I was, especially like maybe around 14 or 15. And I think I had this innate sense that if I really wanted to get somewhere, it was going to be up to me. Ultimately, like, everybody has support. Everybody, I don't believe that there's like like, people are self-made all by themselves. I just think that's a fallacy. I think it's definitely, we all have, support and cheerleaders, and no matter how alone you might feel at any moment, you've always got somebody who's on your side. And
Mm,
so that's an important caveat. But I definitely knew that ultimately my life was up to me. And so, even like, I really remember vividly at 14, I was like, okay, you know, I need to be the one who's directing this train and deciding what it is I want that to be and what matters to me. And because it's so freaking easy to get distracted, and even more so now than when I was a teenager. So yeah, really knowing that. And that's what ended up getting me scholarships and getting me to university, and then
mm.
taking on the next projects. And I seem to keep choosing endeavors where ultimately it's going to be up to me to make sure the thing gets
Good for you.
delivered. So
Good for
I
you.
must I must have a crush on discipline, because
Hmm.
that's the only way that Things can happen. Yeah.
A crush on discipline. That's a first. Kate, what motivates you?
Oh gosh, what motivates me? Um, these days I would say being proud of myself, knowing that every single day I've done something that lights me up, and really that I'm finishing a day feeling proud of what I've done, that I've connected with people, that I've created something, um, that I've lit
Hmm.
people up in some way, and that, yeah, like if I go to bed at night knowing that my heart feels full, then it's been a successful day. And
Mm,
that might look, each day can look a little bit different, but ultimately, connection, creativity, and caring about something is what keeps me going, and has me wake up the next day being just as excited to get up to something in my life.
connection,
Yeah.
creativity, and caring. It's wonderful. So
Yeah.
given that motivation, how do you measure success?
Yeah, no, isn't that the question? Well, I used to definitely measure it by all the external things. Like,
Mm.
did somebody else say they loved my screenplay? Was I on track to get an award? How many books have I sold? Like, did a project manager tell me I did a great job on this project? And I will say I still love hearing those things. Like, those are wonderful things. I'm sure when anybody wins an Oscar, they're thrilled. But ultimately, I've really come to realize that success is one of those internal motivators, and if I'm always looking for it outside, well, at least in my life, I have burnt myself out so many times chasing that rabbit. So success has turned into something where I know, like we were saying, at the end of the day, that I'm proud of what I've done, that I'm proud of where I'm headed,
Hmm.
that I feel like I'm actually, you know, feeling good about what I'm doing for the people that I care about, and what my creative projects are offering to folks in the world. Um, and just again, like coming back to that creativity, caring, and connection, like if I deliver on those things, then I do ultimately, internally, I feel successful, and that's the big fire. So then when I get to, you know sell a certain amount of meals, or have somebody tell me how much they loved reading my book, and that a friend actually started reading it and stole it from them before they got a chance to
Mm.
start reading the story, those things are, they just feel like extra blessings. They kind of feel like somebody, tossed another piece of wood on the bonfire, but it's not me running around trying to get those experiences so that I can get up again tomorrow and do the thing. Like it feels like it adds to the experience that I'm cultivating inside. So,
Mm.
and that's, Joe, that's just been, honestly, it's been essential to both my physical well-being and my mental well-being and my emotional
Mm.
well-being, because I spent a lot of years chasing the opinions of other people and trying to prove something, and that is going to drive you into the dirt ultimately. Like it will burn you out every time. So it's a bonus. I love that bonus. I will treasure it every time, but as the fuel, oh man, it's a disaster waiting to happen, honestly, at least in my life. So, yeah.
Yeah, so many of us get stuck in trying to control things we can't control.
Yes, well said. Well said. Yeah. It's outside you. Like you can't guarantee. Even the most famous people in the world can't guarantee that they're going to continue getting film roles or selling those songs, or, you know, yeah, being the next Top Chef. Like
Mm.
eventually. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a realization. Well, Kate, I thank you so much for your time. I love to hear people like yourself who not just had a problem, created a solution, and just didn't keep it for themselves, but
Mhm.
brought it to market. because there's a need there. There's, people with this same problem, and you've created a solution for them. It's just a note of a remarkable person, I believe. And I wish you continued success. And I love what you're doing. Anybody's listening, how can they get in touch with you?
Yes, thank you. So, flourish.kitchen is our website. So that's the easiest, fastest, most direct way. And then we're definitely on Instagram, which is, I think, flourish.kitchen.co, as in .company. And Flourish is a very popular name, so we've,
Mm,
diversified how we use it. So those are the
yes.
primary ways. You'll definitely find us under that on Facebook as well. Yeah, so I would say those are the direct ways to reach out to us, ask any questions you want to know. We're happy to chat. So,
Yeah, and it's flourish.kitchen. A great
correct.
website. I was reading off it during this conversation. Some of the ingredients is great, and it's a really easy interface, and the food looks great, and it's very inviting. Kate, thank you so much. I hope when I'm in the greater BC area soon enough, we can get a cup of tea.
I would love that. I would love that so much. This has been awesome. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you so much. You be well.
You too.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations.